Hello. I'm doing homework help and about to go live in Facebook. Got to a late start today due to a lot going on. Hello, everyone on Facebook and on in my Google Plus group. I am here for homework help. I apologize for my lateness. Just had a lot going on. My schedule was so packed, and I thought I was going to be here by 8 o'clock on the dot, and didn't happen. Let me close my closet door. If anybody has questions, please post them below. And I will get to answering them. I know I see a lot of you guys in other groups asking questions, posting questions, and this is a good place to post your questions so I can answer them since um, it's good to get somebody who can go through the steps for you. So, what I'm going to do actually is go to one of the groups where I see questions and see if I can answer a few of them for you. Once again, I'll be here for 30 minutes unless someone has a question, and then I shall answer your question. But until 30 minutes, um, I'll sign off. Okay. So I see one question um, that somebody posted in the GED group, which I know a lot of my members um, are in the GED group. So you probably seen this question too. So it says a stack of 15 comic books is placed on top of a book that is 1.5 inches thick. It's a word problem, and you know I'm in the word problems challenge, and so it's like the perfect time to do this. Um, each comic book is 18 inches thick. If the distance between two consecutive shelves is 12 and 1/4 inches, how much space is between the top of the stack and the bottom of the shelf immediately above it? All right, so in the challenge, in the Champs at Word Problems challenge, please put a thumbs up if you are enrolled in the challenge, and if you are and put a flame for me if you are liking what I'm talking about and helping you to do as we unpack word problems. So tomorrow's the last day. Tomorrow we're actually going to be creating our own word problems. Um, Knowing how to solve one, we're going to basically work backwards and try to create our own, which I think that will be so beneficial for you guys to do as math students, because you'll be able to see how word problems really are, real life situations that you could probably run into at some point. So I just read this question. Um, I didn't understand it, so I'm going to read it again. Hold on, let me get my computer, my other one. This is so I can see me going live and see your comments. And if anybody knows Henrietta, I think is the person who posted this question, Henriette, please let her know that I'm about to answer it. And she may want to be in this group so that she can get the answer. So I'm just logging on. Well, to the live so I can see your you popping in and your comments. So like I said, I didn't really get the meaning of this problem, this word problem, until I read it again. That's when I'll get it. And I'm just gonna do the title of this G live homework help. So a stack of comic books is placed on top of a book that is a stack of 15 comic books, by the way, placed on top of a book that is 1.5 inches thick. Okay, I'm going to stop right there and draw a stack of comic books. So 1.5 inches thick, the book, and the stack of comic books. So I'm going to just I have to do this. And this is 1.5 inch book. So this is me doing the second step of solving a word problem, putting it in my own words, drawing a diagram for it, and trying to make it real to me so that I can um, answer the question properly. So, start over. A stack of 15 comic books is placed on top of a book that is 1.5 inches thick, sitting on a shelf of a bookcase. Okay, sitting on the shelf of a bookcase. So, let's say here's the bookcase, second shelf. Here's the sit, and let's say you got a small here. Each comic book is 18 inches thick. Each comic book is 18 inches thick. That's a thick comic book. Each comic book is 18 inches thick. So comic books. Comic book. I'm gonna just equals 18, and I'm gonna just put CB. over here, excuse me, CB, and it's sitting on top of a book that is 1.5 inches thick. 1.5 book. Okay. If the distance between the two consecutive shelves, if the distance between two consecutive shelves is 12.5 inches, okay, so let's say this shelf and shelf. If the do is inches, 12.5 inches between the top of the stack and the bottom of the shelf immediately above it. Okay, this is cool. We got it. So it's good that we got the diagram. We got what values we're working with. We defined the values, and we got, let's see what parts we have, the separate parts. So seems like we have some adding to do, so or multiplication. Multiplication is first because we want to figure out how tall the comic book stack is, so we can multiply. If one comic book equals 18 inches, then 15 comic books equals 15 times 18. That's inches. That's going to give us how tall the comic books are. Then we need to add that number to the 1.5 inch book that it's sitting on top of. So that's addition. And then the other operation we need to use is subtraction, because we know that this the space between the shelf that the books are sitting on and the top shelf above it is 12.5 inches. So we want to subtract the space between the two shelves. Well, we want to subtract the height of the stack of books from the space between the two shelves. So we're using addition. These are the parts. Hold on. For parts, let me get a different color. We are going to do the three things. Going to do this multiplication. So how tall comic books are, and then see height to 1.5 inch book height. And then we are going to subtract book height distance between shelves. We got our three parts, because the final question is how much space is between the top of the stack and the bottom of the shelf immediately above it. So what we want is when we subtract the book height from the distance between the shelves. So the book height is this, which we don't know yet. Didn't know, so we're gonna call it X. And actually, let's call it BH. And when we subtract the book height from the 12 and a half inches, we're going to be left with, hi, Miss Shaquita. Thank you for hopping on. We're going the distance between the space between the bottom of the top shelf and the top of the books. Let me see, different color. We're going to be left with this space right here. Okay? Let's get calculating. So, first, we're going to find how tall the comic books are. Okay? So like I said, we have one comic book equals 18 inches. Let me check again. I feel like this is off. Like 18 inches. The space between these two shelves is only 12 and a half inches. So I feel like that number is a little off. So I'm going to say 1.8 inches. I'm going to change that number to 1.8 inches. Because if one comic book is 18 inches, and that means that the comic book is like this tall, and that's unrealistic. Each comic book is 18 inches thick. Yeah, that's off. So I'm gonna say 1.8 inches. All right, 1 point. And whatever for Henriette, if you guys can let her know that I answered this question. If she does this, um and that my 1.8 inches number is wrong, then just she can just substitute what it's supposed to be with 18 having my 1.8 inches. She can just put whatever number is actually in the question, um, and finish and out the question problem. Okay, so we're saying that each comic book is 1.8 inches thick. So if she has 15, 18 inches, oh, sorry, 1.8 inches, what do we get? 15 15 comic books times 1.8 is 27. That's still off. Inches. 27 inches for the 15 comic books. 27 inches, 50 books. Okay. So we found that one is done. Two, add comic book height to 1.5 book height. 1.5. So we know that our comic books, our 15 comic books, and we're adding that to our 1.5 book height that we know comic books are sitting on top of this area down here. So 27 inches to 1, 27 plus 1 plus a half, one half. So that's plus 1 is 28, plus a half is going to and a half inches. And this number represents height. How about that? Height of all books. So 2 is done. Now we need to subtract the book height from the distance between the shelves. That's going to be pretty difficult. Why? Because the book height is taller than the shelves. Mm, the books are taller than the shelves. Okay, so book height, we're subtracting the book height is from 12 inches. Subtract the book height from the distance between the shelves. So we got it the other way around. So we away from 12 and a half inches. We're taking 27 away from the book height. I mean, from the distance between the shelves. What we're going to get is a negative number. 12 minus 27 gives us negative 15. And 1/2 minus 1/2 is 0. So we got negative. Not sure what the real values are, um, Miss Henriette, but this is the process that you'll take to do um, this problem. Maybe it was like 0.18 inches instead of 18 inches and instead of 1.8 inches. Let's try 0.18, see what happens. 7. We're not going to get F. I mean, 28 and a half. All right. We're going to substitute for 0 inches times 15 because comic books, in my opinion, comic books are pretty thin. So 15 times 0.18, that's 2.7 inches. 2.7 inches. And the book that it's on top of is 1.5 inches. So inches times, plus 1.5 inches is going to give you 3. Oh, we got 2.7. So we can't just add, we can add 2 and 1. That gives us 3 because those are two whole numbers. But for the adding the decimal and the fraction, we'd have to convert either the 0.7 to a fraction or the 1/2 to a decimal. And in my head, I would convert the 1/2 to a decimal because that's one of our benchmark or standard fractions. And 1/2 converted to a decimal is 0.5, 0.05. So if we have 2.7 plus, that's what you're really adding when you convert the 1/2 to a decimal. Um, you're going to get 3 plus 7 plus 5 is 12. So zero point 0.7 plus 0.5 is actually, and then we add the 3 plus the 1.2. The whole numbers are going to be 3 plus 1. The decimal is still 2. Okay, yay, nice. That's a can work with because it's less than 12 and a half. So we want to go back to, we did 1 and 2. Want to go back to 3 and subtract from the distance between shelves. So the book height is 4.2 between the shelves is 12 and a half. So I'm going to convert this 1.5 to um, a decimal is going to be 12.5. So 12.5 minus 4.2 is going to give me 12 minus 4, and 5 minus 2 is 3. 3 inches. That makes sense. That makes more sense to you? That's another thing that I did not mention. Does the answer make sense? And the challenge. It's really important to know if the answer makes sense, like to be able to identify what's going on. Because what if I just got a negative number and didn't really reason on whether or not my answer should be negative? Like my answer should not be negative because I can't put books beyond the shelf. If I'm supposed to have distance between the two shelves and distance between the bottom of the shelf and the book and the top of the books, if I'm supposed to have distance between there, it can't be a negative number. Distance is not negative. Distance is just overlapping sometimes, but distance is not negative. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. Does this answer make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, then we got to figure out where we went wrong because maybe we made a mistake, or we got to figure out if the values are accurate or um what's the word, realistic. Is an 18-inch book, y'all, like that's over a foot. So I got, this is probably like a 12 inches. This is 12 inches, and 18 inches is half of this plus this. That's 18 inches for one comic book. That doesn't make sense. And then I got 15 of them on one shelf. That doesn't make sense. So, since that's the case, I was able to change some of the. Not saying that you should go changing numbers in your word problem, but sometimes publishers make mistakes when they are typing up their word problems. And it could be that the number that they wrote down was different than the number that it should have been. So it could be that maybe they did write down 18 from wherever Henriette got this question from. Maybe they did write down 18 inches. But once again, it doesn't make sense for it to be 18 and for a comic book to be 18 inches thick. No book is that big that you'll see commonly. And who's carrying 15 of them? That's a lot. So 8.3 inches is what? Let's get this definition. 8 is the bottom bottom of the top shelf. Okay, so that's what the 8.3 inches is. 8.3 inches is the distance. Distance is never negative. Just like time is never negative, really. Time does not go backwards. It's always going forwards and you can't stop it. So I am going to, I don't see anybody that anyone hopped on except for Shaquita. But Hopefully, you guys can catch the replay of this explanation. And I hope that you guys have a good evening. All right. I will see you tomorrow morning for the final day of the Champs at Word Problems Challenge. We're going to be creating our own word problems, and I'm also going to mention um, more on making sure that the answer and the values make sense. How to identify that, like just trying to visualize what exactly this value means, having some type of concept of size and time and distance. Like, what does it mean to spend an hour doing something compared to spending a minute doing something? Those are two different um, sources of time, or two different, what's the word, units of time. A minute goes by like this, an hour, you can take a nap in an hour, right? And wake up and feel rested. So that's what I want to talk about tomorrow. So hop on and join the challenge. I'm going to leave the challenge link in the description of the video, and you can join without you can join still and still get like all the days without doing it along with me, because I've created it so that even after the challenge, people can join and get the benefit of the information later on. Okay. Well, I hope you all have a good evening, and I will talk to you in the morning at 9 a.m. Bye.